a reaction tool to raise a hand or put something in the chat. Maybe I'd like to begin with the first question for you. Your message was very clear about the fact that we can't just rely on, in a way, the label that is given by the diagnosis, and you need to go further with that and understand. And you were mentioning this approach that you seem to have, which is to engage a conversation and try to understand actually what is the functioning of the autistic students you are coaching. On the other hand, just before we had also this very interesting tool that Beatrice Lopez was mentioning, and by the way, in the chat you are saying it could be helpful. My question would be, how would it be the best? Is it kind of having a combination of, like a tool, like a profiling tool, and some interviews, or do you think we could rely on the tool? So what is your approach about that? Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Yeah, for sure. Usually the approach that I take, whether talking to teachers or students, because I also coach teachers, I forgot to mention that in the presentation, but the approach that I usually take is like, I have this bag of tools. I've had a lot of courses, like I mentioned in the presentation, the Socratic method, but there are like 1,000 more methods of coaching. And I've had quite a few of them. So how I always view it, I'm a very visual thinker. So what I always think about in my brain is like, I have this backpack. And when I'm talking to a student and I notice the conversation going in a particular way, or a teacher, and the conversation going into a particular way, I usually think, before I answer or whatever, I try to take some time to think like, is there a tool in my backpack that I can use currently in this situation to make, to help this conversation? Because obviously the end goal, and I think for all of us, I think everyone would agree to this, I think the end goal is to help the student or person with autism, employer, employee, whatever title they have. So having this tool set and just putting it forward at the moments that they are useful. That's, I think, and one of the things that I hear with a lot of students is about their auditory thing, because we have quite a big building with a lot of people in them. So that's why I was so excited about those tools that were presented before the break, just before my presentation. I was like, I need those tools in my backpack as well in order to like use them when I talk to one of those students again.
Okay, thanks, Roy. I think Gavin has a question.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you, Roy. Really resonated a lot with myself as an autistic person, and as someone who's also advice and guidance person as well, and supported individuals. So thank you for that. I think that what resonated with me, what you said, you are not your diagnosis. You are not your diagnosis. Your individuality and identity and your development pathway come first before your diagnosis and what that looks like. So again, we've faced, you also addressed the ambiguity and the how can I say, the bigotry that happens in the workplace, and that's really difficult. So I just wonder if you could expand on how you support teachers and students to deal with the ambiguity and bigotry within the workplace as an autistic person.
Yeah, so basically we do a few things. I coach either the student directly or the teacher directly. And I think the teacher coaching is the best way, because with a student, of course, coaching a student is also very good, but with a student, you help one student. And if I coach a teacher, I always have this feeling like he will come across, or she will come across, more students, so they will help them more. So we do that within school. I do just one-on-one coaching, very specific to the question. But what's also really interesting for this conference, I think, is to tell about our second part, which is called Career Jumpstart, which coaches people who graduate or do internships and who go to companies. And like I also said in my presentation, one of my colleagues is more into their coaching, into their that part. But what I do within Career Jumpstart is I go to companies who can ask for an assessment. It's pretty close to one of the earlier presentations that I heard. I can't remember exactly which one, but they ask for a assessment. And so I go in, and this is pre-COVID times, of course. Now it's a bit more difficult, but pre-COVID, I went in and I actually walked around the place. And what I did was I told them, give me a tour, but give me a physical tour. So don't talk too much about the place, just guide me around. And what I did was I basically like I chose to be more, I put open all my senses basically. Usually I block out stuff and filter stuff so I can, you know, sort of keep on functioning. But during those tours, I choose to be quote unquote more hypersensitive by just throwing out my filter. And then after that, I sit down with the people who do the recruitment within that company, and I talk to them about autism. I basically open up the conversation, and through autism more into neurodiversity. I usually use autism as a springboard because that's what I know most of. But we do a conversation about neurodiversity, and I give them this report. And it's not like a report card, like you do this bad, you do this bad, you do this bad, but I just give them a report of what I've seen and what I've experienced within their company and during their talks. So the talks are more for the hiring process and stuff in general, more of the processes. And that tour is literally like, oh, you know, there's this light over there. For some people who are sensitive to like imagery and lights, that might be a problem, or it's like to the very practical level. And that's what we do for companies as well. So we take on both sides. We take on both the students that come into the companies, but we also help the companies, yeah, on the other end.
Thanks, Roy. We only have a couple of minutes left, but there is a very interesting question or precision, which is asked by Cornelia. She asks, would you advise against mentioning being autistic in an application? Because she had that impression, but maybe she has misunderstood. So
yeah, that's always I see the question in chat. That's always a delicate subject, I think. I think it depends on the person. If how comfortable is the person with their own autism? And during the presentation, I said the beginning, research has shown that the beginning and the end of a interview are the most remembered, the most impactful. So I think my message is not don't mention your autism. I think my message is more is don't put them at the beginning of the interview. And I wouldn't say mention your autism, but start by mentioning, you know, what you need. Like if you're saying like, I need a quiet workspace because auditory stimuli causes me to work less productively, you know, that's without mentioning the label autism, you're still mentioning, yeah, sort of what you need. But I think it really depends on the person, as with everything with autism and other neurodiversity, I think it really depends on the person, like how confident are you in your own autism to mention it, like for example, and also the job. I mean, in my job interview, I mentioned I'm autistic because obviously I'm trying to apply for coaching autistic students. So then it's a strength. But I think it's, yeah, how powerful or how confident are you if you've had the diagnosis for a month and are still like unsure? Yeah, maybe not. But if you've had the diagnosis for 11 years and you know yourself in and out, yeah, maybe it could be a strength as well. Because then you can also mention the strengths, which were talked about at the beginning of this conference. People in the presentation said these are the strengths of autism. You can use that as well. Hey, I'm autistic, but that means I've got these strengths. But then you need to be confident in yourself and in your own autism or other neurodiversity.
Thank you very much, Roy. We need to jump to